Welcome. It's Monday, 1 o'clock, Deal Doctor Live. We have a special guest today for you, Tim Creech, out of our Jackson office. And Tim is a master of Mike Ferry objection handling techniques, which is why I asked him to come along and join us today. We're going to talk about how to overcome objections, but first of all, how to identify the difference between an objection, a condition, or a stall, and how we get through that process to move getting a listing forward. For example, a condition. Let's talk about what a condition is. A condition is when a seller calls you and says, hey, I've got a $200,000 house to sell, and you look at it and go, yeah, it's about $200,000. The problem is that I have $350,000 in tax liens on it. That's a condition. There's nothing you can do about that to fix that problem. That's a condition that and you go, the only solution there is to say thanks for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Goodbye. And you move to the next call. But not all statements that a seller makes are conditions. In fact, most of them are objections or stalls. Stalls is one of the types of objections. A stall is very often where a seller has forward. And that's because you haven't given them enough information to feel that level of comfort. There are other objections too, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but the stall is one of the easiest objections to address. And the way I do it, just very quickly, is that I acknowledge them first of all. I go through a process and I acknowledge that they're concerned. I clarify the objection or stall. I ask them a question, if I would you, explain the solution, and then close. For example, I understand that this is a big decision and you want all the information you can to make the right decision for yourself. Is your concern the possession time, the fact that you would sell your home and not have enough time to get out of the house within that possession time that you're granted? Is that your concern? And if they nod their head yes, and if they even blink, then explain. I asked the question, if I could show you a way that we could remove that from consideration and make you feel comfortable about the period of time that you're going to have to move and what resources you're going to have available, would you even think about making a move today and getting the ball rolling? And that's the close. So mine is a process. It doesn't have exact words, but I'm going to turn it over now to Tim because, and the other thing Tim and I will both tell you is practice, practice, practice. Tim, how many hours per week do you practice with someone in a role play situation? How many hours a week do you practice your skills in terms of making prospecting calls and overcoming objections and so on?
Well, I think it's extremely important to think about your commitment to having things internalized and feeling comfortable to talk about it. And it sounds a little crazy, but I have dedicated partners that I role play with. I have one group that I rotate partners with every week, and I role play generally somewhere between a half hour to 45 minutes, 5 days a week with a different partner every week. And we have set things. Every Monday we work on expired listings. Tuesdays we work on for sale by owners. Wednesday we work on objection handling. Thursday and Friday we work on listing presentation or the pre-listing qualification script. And so we're constantly trying to work on those. And as the market evolves, we're tweaking the way we might respond. So a question I have for a certain objection or concern might be very different than what I would have said 3 years ago, depending on what the market conditions were at that time. But if you think about, say, a great golfer or a basketball professional or whoever you might admire, an Olympian is a great example. They all have coaches that are helping them, and always looking and evaluating what they're doing. The role play and practice is a great way to do that, because then you've got your mindset of how you're going to respond, and your tonality and your voice inflection of how you respond. And a good aggressive partner will try to give you realistic feedback and pushback as you have those responses. And so I'm generally doing that somewhere between a half hour to 45 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And I've been doing it for years now, for I guess probably close to 5 years.
Yep. And I would agree, because when I first got started in the business, I had a friend. We were partners in the business, and we got together every Monday for 3 hours of practice, on whether it was on listing contracts, overcoming objections, getting offers accepted, all of those kinds of things. Practice, practice, practice. It has to come instantly. You shouldn't have to think about it when you're faced with those objections. For example, Tim, you know, you're a great guy. I love the way you think. I appreciate it. I've seen your signs everywhere, but I only want to give you a 30 or 90-day listing.
You know, I can appreciate that you're wanting to do a shorter listing agreement. My policy is I only do a minimum of 4 months. Do you have any other questions?
Well, explain that to me, Tim. I guess I'm confused. I mean, I'm the customer. I want a 3-month listing.
You know, I can appreciate you want to do a shorter time frame. We are going to aggressively market your home with our professional photography the way we've explained to you in our marketing plan, and we need time to make sure those are adequately working to be able to get the best results possible for you. And that's why we have a set standard that we don't do a listing contract less than 4 months. Is there any other questions you have? And then I would just go right along. Most of the time when you set a standard like that, you don't blink and you say it right back at them. They normally don't keep pushing you on it.
Yeah. And I love the way that you were ready for that question. You knew it was coming. So, you know, Tim, we've been thinking about hiring another company. We've actually never heard of 5-Star Real Estate. Can help me understand why we should list with a company we've never heard of?
Well, I can appreciate that you might not be familiar with myself or 5-Star, but I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think is one of the most important things to get your home sold? Do you feel that it's necessarily the company, or do you see where the actual agent involvement is the most important thing?
Well, doesn't the MLS sell houses?
Well, that's a great question. And you know, if it was just that simple, you probably wouldn't need me. But actually having a proactive, aggressive agent, which is probably what you're looking for to get you the very best net results in the time frame you're looking for, right?
Well, yeah, I can see where exposure would get me some, might get me some more buyers. But if we do it ourselves, we save the commission.
Yeah, that's true. By trying to do it yourself, it is possible you can save the commission. But I think that probably netting the most money is probably one of the most important things. Or is it being able to sell it yourself? Which is the most important to you, netting the most money or selling it yourself?
Well, I want to get the most money, but I think that if I sell it myself and don't have to pay a commission, that's the best way to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely something you might initially think you could save the most money. If I'm there in front of the customer, I wouldn't do this on a phone call, but if I'm literally listing a presentation and somebody gives me that objection, here's what I would say to them. I would say, well, have you ever seen an example where somebody had sold their car themselves as opposed to taking it to a used car lot?
Yeah.
Well, where do you think that you as a buyer would pay the highest price for a used car? At a new car, a used car, or a guy on the side of the road?
Well, the highest price, I'd probably pay the highest price at a new car dealer.
I think you're absolutely right. The highest price is probably at the new car dealership. But who do you think actually sells more cars? The new car dealership or the guy on the side of the road?
No, the guy on the side of the road only has one car to sell.
Right. And so when somebody's looking to get a good deal as a buyer, would you go to the guy on the side of the road or the new car dealer?
That's a good option, but you know, how many, what's the percentage? I mean, I mean, I see all these black and white sign, for sale by owner signs out there. Are you telling me that those don't sell, or what happens to them?
Well, realistically, the National Association of Realtors tries to track that data. And historically, we're seeing where it's only about 2% of for sale by owners actually end up selling themselves without an agent and being involved. You don't really want to take only a 2% chance of getting your home sold, do you?
Only 2%, really?
Right. You know, that's certainly one objection handler you can use. The other one, coming back to the car lot example, would be saying, well, you know, you don't want to be considered like that car on the side of the road, do you? Would you rather get the highest price possible? We can do that because by putting in a multiple listing and getting an active, proactive plan to get your house on the market, we're going to drive as many qualified buyers to see your home as possible, not just the limited handful that might have the courage to knock on your door.
So
you're really a multitude of buyers that could come see your home and potentially drive that price over your listed price.
So you're saying
to take a chance and settle just on the limited number of people that would see your signs and stop and pay your price.
So you're saying more exposure is the thing that's going to get me the higher price. Is that what I'm understanding?
Exactly. It's just like the new car dealership. They know that they're going to be able to get the prices that they want because people are coming to that lot to look at cars. The guy on the side of the road is going to get somebody that just happens to stop looking for getting a deal on a car. And you don't want to be looked at as a discount house, do you?
Well, no, but
sure.
You know,
but let's just sign the contract and I can get you headed in the direction you want, the time frame you're looking for. How does that sound?
Well, that sounds great, Mike, but you know, I guess one of my questions is, can't we try to price it a little bit higher? I mean, this market's been crazy with overbids, and maybe we can recoup some of the expense of your commission by pricing it higher. We can always come down.
You know, and that's a great question too. Oftentimes I get people that will ask that, and I can understand why, because it's always easier to come down than to try to go up, isn't it? You know the concern that I have for that in this market though, Mr. Seller?
No, what's that?
Well, in our current market, we see buyers that are coming into a home knowing that they're going to get a short amount of time frame to make a really big decision. And oftentimes they know that when they come in, they need to be able to make that decision very quickly. And they're probably going to end up in a highest and best bid situation. You know what happens if they walk into your home and they feel that it's overpriced?
They won't offer, will they?
You're answering the question, yeah. They're actually going to say, gosh, you know, I see this when I work as a buyer's agent. They're going to say, I really like the home, but I'm not willing to get into a bidding war at that price. And they're actually probably going to turn around and leave and not write an offer at all. Do you know what's going to end up happening then? 2 to 3 weeks from now, you're not getting any offers. You'll end up having to reduce your price. At that point, you've been on the market for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe longer, and now they're going to start to think something might be wrong with your house because it hasn't sold in the current market we're in.
So it's a dog. It's a dog on the market.
Yeah, we price it properly. Then you're going to look like you've got that value in the eyes of the buyer. When the buyer sees value, that's when they're going to bring their best offer possible and drive it up, probably up over the listed price to what you're really looking for. Let's go ahead and get this signed at the price I'm recommending, and I can make sure we're getting you the best qualified offers. We're not going to price it too low in today's market because when they see value, they'll come up over the listed price. How does that sound?
Well, it sounds good, Mike, and I appreciate all you've shared with me. In this market that we're seeing, what is the average? What do you think the average days on the market for a house like mine is going to be?
You know, that's a really good question. To answer that for the 5-star family, I'm over in Jackson County, so I know it's going to be very different than Grand Rapids. So what I would say here in Jackson County is typically we would expect to see you get an offer if we price this correctly within the first 2 weeks that you're on the market. And then you'd probably be at a closing table in roughly 30 to 40 days after that. So your total time from the time we start to the time you're at a closing table, Mr. Seller, is probably going to be less than 45 days or so if we price it properly right off the bat. And we'll know we've got it priced right because if we're not seeing a lot of showings and not receiving any offers within the first 10 days or so, the market's going to be telling us that we've priced it too high.
So mid to late September, I could be seeing a move.
I would suggest that's correct. If we go ahead and get the contract signed now and I can get marketing on your home, that's certainly what we can help you do. How do you feel about that?
Well, Mike, you said a lot of great stuff. I really appreciate it, but you know, we want to think it over, kind of sleep on it. You know, we don't generally jump into decisions right away when we on a decision that's this important.
And I can appreciate that. You haven't sold a home in a while, have you?
No, actually not, since 1978.
Oh, wow. So this is probably a really big decision, isn't it?
Well, it is, Mike. It is, Mike, and I know that we're a little bit shy about jumping in with both feet right away.
Sure. Well, you know, and feel free to call me Tim too. But one of the things that I guess I would suggest, if you've got some things left to think about, oftentimes two heads are better than one. So out of curiosity, what things are you still thinking it over?
You know, I guess I worry whether we'll be able to find a house if we sell and list it today and we get an offer that's great tomorrow or a week from now, but we haven't found a house that we can move to. What do we do then?
And that's a really realistic question today, isn't it? So what I would say there is, well, Mr. Seller, you know, one of the biggest challenges that you're going to face is making sure that we find you a great home. And we don't want to settle on that home, do we?
Uh-huh. That's correct.
Then let's do this. Let's go ahead and get the contract signed and get you on the market to get your home sold. But let's talk a little bit more about where you want to move to. One of my biggest things that I would suggest is we talk about what your plan B would be. If we get very fortunate and you get a great offer that you feel really good about, and they'd like to be able to give you possession in 30 days, we could always try to negotiate to get you, say, an additional 30 days possession after the closing, so that we can limit how quickly it sells by saying we won't close any sooner than a given date and give you possession time after that. But to be honest, we don't want to settle during that time frame. Where would be a place that you could potentially locate yourself for some period of time, say a month, 2 months or so, until the right home could come along that you'd be able to take advantage of and purchase? And I'll help you do that purchase, so you're not going to be doing this alone.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking someplace with umbrella drinks and a beach, but that's probably not nearby. You know, this is really great, Tim. I really appreciate that. I have to confess that we do have a friend in the business, and you know, I would feel not much of a friend if I didn't ask that person to come over and have a conversation with us and talk with us.
You know, I can really appreciate that, Don. You know, we all know somebody that's a real estate agent. I know a lot of real estate agents myself, obviously, but I know that you respected my opinion enough to have me out here for a reason, right?
Yep, true.
Well, I know sometimes one of the most difficult things is when we're trying to make a true business decision, and when we're doing that, we end up having to have a situation where we have relationships involved with people. You know, if they go really well, that works out great. If they don't go so well, that could be a really difficult thing with your friendship, couldn't it?
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure that our friend has ever really liked our decor, so you know, even though
you feel comfortable and confident with the marketing plan that I showed you today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're on the right track. I like the things that you've shown me as far as what you're going to do to sell my home. But you know, while I'm being honest with you, another agent told me that he could get more money for the house than what you're talking about.
Sure. Well, you know, as far as working with your friend might go, I think that one of the most important things you might want to do is consider that you're making a business decision. And since you're making a business decision, if you try to take out the friendship part and boil it down to what's the best fit for your family, then it takes away all the social complications. Let's go ahead and sign the contract, and when you get where you're wanting and the time frame you're looking for, and I'll be more than happy to call your friend, let him know that you've made a business decision and you don't want it to hurt your friendship, and even let him know what day we're gonna go live with the listing. So if he's got any buyers he's working with, he can have the first shot at getting them in the door. Now, how does that feel as far as working with your friend?
Well, I think that seems fair. But again, the other agent, there was another agent who said that they could get more money.
And I can appreciate that too. When that agent came out to meet with you, did they come out with a strong current market analysis that they put in writing with comparables like I was sharing with you today?
Well, they did. There seemed to be in the next school district over, which tends to be higher priced. So, and some of them had waterfront. I take this from personal experience, people. So, anyway, but I mean, help me understand. How did you arrive at your price? When I look at his proposal and yours proposal, why? How do I judge? Help me judge which one's correct.
And that's a great question. And the reason I put everything in writing for you today, it gave you the opportunity to see all the comparables I did, and which, by the way, I tried to get them all within a 0.35 of a mile, which is what a typical appraiser is going to want to do. So you're in the same zip code, same school district, same style and type of home, because that's what an appraiser is going to look for. Now, you know, the other way that a lot of agents will play this game is they'll try to come out, promise you something at a higher price. And in doing so, it's going to potentially sound better because your first thought is to go with something that looks like the most amount of money. But do you know what kind of concerns me about that, Don?
What's that?
Well, if they're showing you comparables that are not really similar to your home and they're not in the same school district, and they even used a waterfront house instead of the typical off-waterfront house, gosh, I just kind of wonder if they're really trying to give you the right price or if they're trying to come out and, in fact, buy your listing. And if they overprice the listing, it's kind of like we talked about earlier. You know what's going to end up happening?
It's going to be a dog on the market.
You're not going to get the activity you want, and they're going to end up calling you up and trying to beat you up on the price week after week until they finally get you to come down to the price that you and I were first talking about. And that's why I'm going to recommend it. I give you good verifiable information that you can double check me and verify it. But that's going to let you be able to be confident knowing that I've done my homework. So you put your home at a price that's going to cause it to sell in the time frame you're looking for, so I can get you where you want to go. Let's go ahead and get you on the market in the time frame that you're wanting and sign the contract now. How does that sound?
You know, I see where you're going, but you know, I do have a reservation that you haven't sold any houses in my area. I mean, I look at the other agent, like this agent who priced it differently than you, and he sold 12 houses in the last 6 months in our immediate neighborhood. How much do you know about our neighborhood?
Now, this is a really good question, guys. I'm going to answer it two different ways. If you're a newer agent at 5-star and maybe you haven't sold very many homes, here's how I would answer that question. You know, Mr. Seller, I can agree with what you're saying. I haven't sold many homes in your neighborhood, but the great thing is the company I'm with, 5-Star Real Estate, has hundreds of agents. And with all those agents, we've got a great deal of activity where we're actively bringing buyers to the market. And through the efforts of my company, we have definitely sold a lot of homes in your neighborhood. So that would be step one. If you don't have a strong track record and you're a newer agent, how can you handle that objection? And you're wanting to practice that one if you're a newer agent because you're going to get that question. Now, here's how I would answer that for myself, because I've been in the business 10 years and we're fortunate we sell a fair number of homes. The way I would answer that one is, you know, Mr. Seller, you're correct. I haven't sold any in your immediate neighborhood, but, you know, I do sell a significant number of homes every year. And you know why I'm really excited that that's the benefit for you?
Good answer.
Well, you know, can we agree that the buyer of your home is probably not going to already be living in your neighborhood? They're coming from somewhere, right? Well, since I sell a significant number of locations and price points from around our community, I'm in a great position to recommend one of my past clients or one of their network friends to be able to get your home. So when we get this contract signed and you put me to work, I'm going to start calling and networking with those past clients, making them aware of your home and the great location that you've got, so we can try to find you that right buyer. How does that sound?
Well, it sounds pretty good, but what exactly are you, other than that, what are you exactly going to do to sell my house? Are you going to do a video or photos? Who's professional? You know, are you going to create flyers and stick them in my yard? Do open houses? What activities are you going to do to sell my house?
You know, Mr. Summers, that's actually a really great question too. You know, a simple way that I can say it, are you aware that there's really two types of agents right now?
No, I wasn't aware.
Sure. Well, there's really two types. There's going to be kind of a passive agent. They're the one that's going to more or less put the sign in the yard and hope it sells. And then you're going to have a proactive agent. And that's really what my team and I are. We're proactively going to be starting off with a great sign. We're going to have professional photography, video work. We're going to do things like open houses, outbound Facebook ads, and a whole plethora of things based on the marketing plan that I've shared with you in our CMA packet today. And through that proactive effort, it's going to help us drive activity that's not just here in your area, somebody seeing it online, but we're going to actually network and call people. And that's why I think you're probably looking for that active, aggressive agent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, terrific. Here I am. Let's go ahead and get the contract signed, and I can get you head where you want, the time frame you're looking for. How does that sound?
Well, it's great, but I'm going to ask you
See
one
how
more
I come
time.
back to a close every time, guys? You know, I know it probably sounds maybe a little, but you know, hey, doesn't that sound great? Let's go ahead and get the contract signed. You have to come back to a close.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. But you know, Tim, everything sounds great, but that other agent said that they would cut the commission, and we want you to shave a point off of your commission.
You know, I can appreciate that. You know, there's always somebody out there that wants to do something a little bit cheaper than somebody else, isn't there?
Well, that's true.
Well, you know, the thing that I'm curious about, Don, when you say that other agent was willing to cut their commission, did you ask them to cut that commission, or did they voluntarily cut the commission?
Well, they kind of volunteered it, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I see that quite a bit. You know, there's something that concerns me about that. Can I share that with you?
Absolutely.
Well, when you walk into a circumstance and you have a true professional in front of you, and they're already willing to cut their commission, you know, which is presumably how they're supporting their family and feeding their children. And the first thing they're wanting to do is just voluntarily cut their income. It makes me kind of curious, how hard do you think they're really going to negotiate to try to get the best price possible to put into your pocket? And when things are difficult through the negotiation process, are they going to be more worried about doing the best thing for you, or just making sure they hang on to that little bit of commission that they negotiated for themselves?
You know, I had to think, you know, would I hire a doctor for my heart surgery based on the one who did it cheapest? And I want the best. And so I think you've proven to me here in the last half hour, Tim, that you're the best choice. So let's get the ball rolling.
I appreciate that faith in me. And you know what? We're going to make sure we earn every penny of that. Let's go ahead and get this signed down. And thanks for letting me be out at your house today.
Thank you, Tim. Folks,
yeah, the commission cutting is a really common one, guys. The friend in the business, will you cut your commission? Those are really common objections. And you notice I try to look right at you, and you try not to blink, and you want to try to say, you know, something along the lines how I said that, because it is true. If somebody's willing to cut their paycheck, and sometimes you'll hear them say something like, well, I talked with Donna over at Coldwell Banker, and she said they're running a special this month that if I list during the month of August, they'll do it for only 5% instead of 6%. Wow, really? Well, you know what concerns me about that is if their brokerage is really kind of getting desperate enough that they're willing to reduce their commission, maybe they're not really that aggressive of an agent, and they're just trying to be a discount agent. You wouldn't consider your home to be a discount home, would you?
Yeah. Great.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm kind of curious, why would you want to hire a discount broker giving discount service when you have a premium home?
Tim, thank you. I want to point out, for half an hour, Tim answered everything I threw at him, closed repeatedly with every objection that he handled, and it doesn't happen without practice, practice, practice. It is a learned behavior. So anytime you want to get more business, become more effective and have a higher hit ratio when you go out on a listing appointment or when you're prospecting with your telephone for listing appointments, go back to this video, pull this video up and practice, get a partner and practice these objection handling techniques, because we know we have all run into the same ones. We've been doing this, I for 35 years, Tim for, how long you been, Tim, like 20?
A little over 10.
Okay, so these are proven techniques. They've been around a long time, and if you practice them and get really good at them, your income, your hit ratio is going to increase. And we're a little bit beyond time, but I think it was worth it. Again, Tim Creech, thank you so much for joining us. Next week, I'm going to be on vacation, and Paul Brooks, our newest member of the broker support team, will be sitting in, and he will see you next week.
All right. Hey guys, if I can ever do anything to help you, feel free to, reach out to me, Facebook Messenger me, or hit me up on Facebook Connect or something like that. I'd be more than happy to help you any way I can. Because if you can just get these down and increase the number of deals you do, it'll make a really big difference in your paycheck. So I wish you all the best of luck.
Cool.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, Tim.